Number 1. Number 2.
Hello everyone, today I present to your attention the top 5 future VTOL drone. Watch this video to the end to not miss the most interesting. If you like this video, subscribe to channel. This is very important for me. Thanks. New video is coming soon.
Number 5. Number 4.
Hello friends, in this video I have selected for you the top 6 new electro motorcycles that will already be on sale in early 2023. Welcome to the future, enjoy watching everyone, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and leave comments.
Number 6.
The Hyperfighter Colossus motorcycle redefines the Street Fighter category with a powerfully charged limited edition model, said Jay Giraud, co-founder and CEO, Damon Motors. The Hyperfighter is a stripped-down demon of a bike that is not for the faint of heart, so that riders can fight traffic, fight gas, and fight compromise. We're excited to give the naked sports bike fanatic everything they want, coupled with the unrivaled technological features found only on Damon bikes. Only 100 Hyperfighter Colossus motorcycles will hit the road, making them highly coveted. Key features of the Hyperfighter Colossus include 200 horsepower, 200 nanometers torque, 0 to 603 seconds, 170 miles per hour top speed hyperdrive, the world's first monocoque constructed, 100% electric, multi-variant powertrain optimized for maximum performance, design and safety. Copilot 360 advanced warning system that uses radar, cameras and non-visual sensors to track the speed, direction and velocity of up to 64 moving objects around the motorcycle for unparalleled situational awareness. Shift, at the push of a button, patented electronic ergonomics allow riders to transform their riding position with adjustable handlebars position and a retractable windscreen to dramatically reduce wind resistance and increase long-range comfort, all while in motion. Additional groundbreaking specifics of the Hyperfighter will be detailed at SEI 2022.
Let's take a look at the bomber that maybe shouldn't have been built, had a bizarre delivery method, found new life in another role, and set a world record which just might surprise you. The North American A5 Vigilante was a carrier-based supersonic bomber that entered service for the U.S. Navy in 1961. Capable of attaining speeds of Mach 2 and carrying nuclear payloads, the Vigilante was a heavy attack aircraft that made use of an unusual delivery system. The A5 saw extensive use in the Vietnam War, however in an entirely different role, and had a relatively brief career that was cut short in part by advances it helped introduce. Many feel that the late 1940s and early 1950s were the golden age of aircraft development. The dawn of the jet age inspired aircraft manufacturers to design and hopefully produce new aircraft that could take advantage of the incredible amount of changes that were going on in the post-World War II era. It was a time of unparalleled experimentation in aircraft development, with many fascinating designs and breakthroughs in the commercial and military sectors. The Korean War ushered in the combat era of the jet age, which led both the Air Force and Navy to require increasingly larger and faster aircraft. This was true of not only fighters, but bombers as well. It was during this time that the Navy became interested in a nuclear-capable medium bomber that could operate out of carriers, which led both North American Aviation and Douglas to work on some designs. Initially, it appeared that North American had the advantage, as they had just produced the A.J. Savage, a carrier-based. Let's take a look at the Soviet Union's most feared fighter, the MiG-28. The MiG-28, codenamed Fakeout, was a Cold War-era Soviet fighter that was feared by all NATO pilots. With its high speed, long range, excellent maneuverability, and impressive weapon options, the MiG-28 quickly rose to the top of the threat list. Conceived as an air-to-everything fighter platform, today we will look at the development and operational history of the MiG-28, including 2 encounters over the Indian Ocean which forever changed its fate. Let's start by taking a look at some specifications for the MiG-28 Fakeout. Length, 14.45 meters. Height, 4.08 meters. Wingspan, 8.13 meters. Empty weight, 4,349 kilograms. Maximum takeoff weight, 11,214 kilograms. Engines, each RD-36 produces 50 kilonewtons of thrust dry or 81.3 kilonewtons of thrust with afterburner. Maximum speed, estimated to be Mach 2. When it comes to armament, the MiG-28 Fakeout is armed with 2 internal 30mm GSH-30-8 Gatling guns. Despite external protrusions which appear to be guns on the nose, the actual guns are mounted on the wing roots. The twin barrels protruding on the nose are actually a super secret Soviet stealth radar jammer. More on that later. In addition to the internal guns, the MiG-28 has 7 external hardpoints for mounting a wide range of ordnance. Some examples include, for air-to-air missions, the short-range heat-seeking Has the Su-75 Checkmate been canceled? Also, what's going on with the Su-57 Felon? Stick around and find out. Last year, amid much fanfare at the 2021 MAKS Air Show, Russia unveiled a mock-up of a new low-cost 5th-generation fighter, the Sukhoi Su-75 Checkmate. The model revealed at the air show was an early engineering prototype, essentially a full-scale wooden mock-up that was not airworthy. At the time, the announcement was seen as a boon for potential nations that were looking to upgrade their air forces to 5th-generation fighters, especially since the unit cost was quoted at somewhere between $25 to $30 million. For comparison, an F-35 today sells for about $80 million, leading many to believe that the quoted price for the Checkmate was going to be heavily subsidized by the Russian government. And while the Checkmate was technically going to be a 5th-generation fighter, most aviation experts agreed that it was not going to be on par with the F-35. So what exactly did the Checkmate promise to deliver? From an airframe design perspective, a prominent feature. There really isn't a reason not to subscribe to Morning Brew, especially if you're interested in finance, business, or tech, and you value your time. Again, it's completely free and takes
Reports in the Japanese media suggest that Tokyo is thinking about teaming up with the United Kingdom, not the United States, to help build its next-generation combat aircraft, known as the FX. Apparently, BAE Systems has been earmarked as the most likely partner for the program, which aims to field a new fighter jet around 2035, the same timeline as for the British company's Tempest Future Combat Air System, FCAS, which you can read more about here. It seems the latest decisions in the program were made in the course of high-level meetings between Japanese, British, and US officials earlier this month. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida met his British counterpart Boris Johnson in the United Kingdom on May 5th, with reports of an agreement in principle to cooperate on future fighter programs to be finalized by the end of the year. A day earlier, Japanese Minister of Defense Nobuo Kishi met U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, with the future fighter apparently also on the agenda. According to the reports, Tokyo has already begun negotiations with BAE Systems about expanding its role.
F-22A Raptor, course for rejuvenation. The F-22 Raptor fighter is undoubtedly one of the brightest legends in the history of world aviation. The world's first 5th-generation fighter, the world's first stealth aircraft, the world's first combat aircraft flying at supersonic without an afterburner. Its technical characteristics were so high that even now, 10 years after the cessation of its production, no country in the world could duplicate them in full. But the sky's the limit. Recently, it became known that the world's best fighters will undergo modernization. Let's see how they want to make the Raptor even more formidable and deadly to enemies. The F-22 Raptor began entering service with the U.S. Army in 1997. A total of 195 vehicles were produced, of which 187 were in production. Distinctive features of these machines are cruising supersonic speed, super maneuverability, and stealth technology. It's no exaggeration to say that everything in this fighter, from the tip of the nose,
Already begun negotiations with BAE Systems about expanding its role in the Japanese next-generation fighter. British companies have already reached agreements with Japan to assist in the development of the power plant and to partner on new-generation air-to-air missiles that would likely arm the new aircraft. Further bilateral cooperation includes the UK Ministry of Defence's support to Japan's Joint New Air-to-Air Missile Program, or JNAAM. This weapon is expected to combine British expertise relating to the MBDA Meteor Beyond Visual Range Air-to-Air Missile, BVRAAM, with a Japanese-developed Advanced Radio Frequency, RF, seeker. Having BAE Systems join the Japanese Future Fighter program as a developmental partner would be a hugely significant step. It would also be bad news for U.S. defense contractors, in particular Lockheed Martin. In late 2020, the Japan Ministry of Defense announced Lockheed as a potential partner on the program. Since then, however, it appears more powerful than Rafales, France tests new generation fighter, NGF, engine designed for future battles. Conceived as an idea of cooperation for developing a next-generation combat aircraft, France's Future Combat Air System, FCAS, just had a major push. Though it had been in the pipeline for a while, the renewed push and equal commitment by all stakeholders have got it moving. This new development could prove to be a major breakthrough in the FCS program. France has tested a prototype engine for the new generation fighter, NGF, that is developing alongside Germany and Spain as part of the larger Future Combat Air System, FCAS/Système de Combat Aérien Theater, SCF.
The publication of images of a new configuration of China's J-10 single-engine fighter jet has sparked widespread speculation regarding the aircraft's purpose, how widely it will be fielded, and what the spine itself houses. The J-10 is a lightweight combat jet, currently in production on a larger scale than any other in the world aside from the American F-35 with the newest variant. The J-10C, considered a close contender for the title of the world's top single-engine fighter. The aircraft is prized for its low maintenance needs and operational costs. Its powerful AESA radar and network-centric warfare capabilities, and its access to advanced weapons classes such as PL-15 air-to-air missiles. The newly revealed J-10 notably uses the older Russian L-31FN engine, which has been phased out of new production batches in favor of the indigenous WS-10, indicating that it may be intended as an upgrade package for older J-10 variants, or else that China's Air Force is seeking to conserve the newer engines for production aircraft rather than prototypes. One theory for the new aircraft's purpose is that the expanded spine houses fuel for a smoke generator pod, allowing it to operate in support of older J-10 under the 72nd Air Brigade, which also use L-31FN engines. Another is that the aircraft may not be intended for Chinese service at all, but rather for an export client. Similarly to how American F-16D were modified with expanded spines for a number of foreign operators. Pakistan is the only confirmed export client for the J-10, having received its first fighters in March 2022, although other
Below defense lovers, friends, you have already heard the news regarding the regular induction of J-10C by the Pakistan Air Force. At your urging in this video, we will talk about the complete history of J-10 aircraft, all its variants in particular, the differences between J-10B and J-10C, as well as J-10C weapon systems and other features and acquisition of the Pakistan Air Force will also be discussed.
Let's take a look at the video you requested, the Eurofighter Typhoon. The Eurofighter Typhoon is a highly capable 4th-plus generation multi-role fighter with exceptional performance, advanced avionics, and superior maneuverability. The product of lessons learned from the Cold War, the Typhoon is a result of an extended collaboration between Germany, Spain, Italy, and the UK. Notable features include canards, a delta wing, dual engines with a split intake under the belly, and an extensive amount of hardpoints for mounting weapons. The movie Top Gun Maverick showcased the F-18 Super Hornet and its use of targeting pods for precision strikes. Wildly successful, the film left a lasting impression on the general public when it came to what the Super Hornet can do. Today, we will take a look at how the upgraded Block 3 Super Hornets gain even more capability with Northrop Grumman's Lightning Advanced Targeting Pods, and how the escort jamming Growlers can help protect the fleet with next-generation pods in an era of changing geopolitical situations. But first, Thank you, World of Warships, for sponsoring this video. Do you enjoy naval history? World of Warships is a free-to-play game and available for PC that features top-notch graphics, including stunning new water effects and textures that make gameplay virtually indistinguishable from the real deal. You can play historical ships from multiple ship classes such as battleships, destroyers, aircraft carriers, cruisers, or if the depths call to you, then dive in with submarines. Even before being sponsored, I played this game myself and prefer the Fletcher-class destroyer as my go-to ship. In World of Warships, there's lots to do with new content being released each month, and you can even play in massive 12 vs 12 battles. The game is free to play, and you can participate as a lone wolf or in a division with your friends. Additionally, World of Warships is also available on consoles. So check out the game. I'll leave a link in the description below. When you register, use the promo code BRAVO to get a huge starter pack. The missile knows where it is at all times. It knows this because it knows where it isn't. By subtracting where it is from where it isn't,
the missile knows where it is at all times. It knows this because it knows where it isn't. By subtracting where it is from where it isn't, or where it isn't from where it is, whichever is greater, it obtains a difference or deviation. The guidance system uses deviations to generate corrective commands to drive the missile from a position where it is to a position where it isn't, arriving at a position where it wasn't, but is now. Consequently, the position where it is the position where it wasn't, so it follows that the position where it was is the position where it isn't. In the event that the position where it is now is not the position where it wasn't, the system has acquired a variation. The variation being the difference between where the missile is and where the missile wasn't. If the variation is considered to be a significant factor, the missile guidance logic system will allow for the variation, provided that the missile knows where it was or is not now. Due to the variation modifying some of the information obtained by the missile, it is not sure where it is. However, the thought process of the missile is that it is sure where it isn't, and it knows where it was. It now subtracts where it should be from where it wasn't, and adds the variable obtained by subtracting where it isn't from where it was. In guidance system language, this is called error, or the difference between deviation and variation, found in the algebraic difference between where the missile shouldn't be and where it is.
Or where it isn't from where it is, it obtains a difference or deviation. The guidance subsystem uses deviations to generate corrective commands to drive the missile from a position where it is to a position where it isn't, and arriving at a position that it wasn't, it now is. Consequently, the position where it is now the position that it wasn't, and it follows that the position that it was is now the position that it isn't. In the event that the position that it is not the position that it wasn't, the system has acquired a variation. The variation being the difference between where the missile is and where it wasn't. If a variation is considered to be a significant factor, it too may be corrected by the GEA. However, the missile must also know where it was. The missile guidance computer scenario works as follows. Because a variation has modified some of the information that the missile has obtained, it is not sure just where it is. However, it's sure where it isn't within reason, and it knows where it was. It now subtracts where it should be from where it wasn't, or vice versa. And by differentiating this
Throughout the last 50-odd years, countries tried to band together to design military hardware. Many tried, many failed. Too divergent were the ideas, too inflexible the standpoints. But today's example is different, with not just two, but three nations overcoming the inherent problems of
Welcome to Aircrew Interview. I'm Mike Young, your host, and this is our Tornado GR special with Dennis Brooks. Dennis has over 4,000 hours on the Tornado GR1, and in this interview he talks about his time on the Triple TE, 9 Squadron, flying in Saudi Arabia, and of course sharing some brilliant stories. Remember, you can help the channel to continue putting out regular quality content by becoming a patron via patreon.com/aircrewinterview, where you receive 4 different tiers, each having its own benefits. So don't forget to click the subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos. I want to thank our sponsor, Club Coins UK, which we are very proud to be working with, as they are a veteran owned and run company where they produce stunning quality coins and patches that showcases the UK's military services. Their homage to the Tornado comes in the form of these quality coins that are available as singles or as sets, and they also produce this stunning Velcro patch that celebrates their homage to the Tornado. Coins UK, which we are very proud to be working with, as they are a veteran owned and run company where they produce stunning quality coins and patches that showcases the UK's military services. Their homage to the Tornado comes in the form of these quality coins that are available as singles or as sets, and they also produce this stunning Velcro patch that celebrates both the Tornado GR1 and GR4 in RAF service. You can check these products out and more at their website, which is clubcoinsuk.com. Thank you and enjoy. So Dennis, when did you first become interested in aviation?
When I was still at school, I joined the Air Training Corps, became an air cadet, and that sort of sparked the interest off from that time.
Yeah. So what year did you join the RAF?
In 1974.
Wow. And what were some of the basic aircraft you started your training on?
At that time, it was all through jet training on the Jet Provost. Mm-hmm. So it was the 2 marks of JP at the time, the JP3, JP4, that I did my basic training on.
Mm-hmm. And did you have a thought like what aircraft you wanted to eventually go on to?
Yes.
Was that a silly question?
Yeah, as you might imagine, the Lightning was pretty well much in mind. Yeah, so that was the aircraft obviously to aspire to at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you started flying the Hunter on your pre-Lightning course. Could you tell us what this was like to fly?
Yes, just to go back a step, if I may, from initially after.
Welcome to Aircrew Interview. I'm Mike Young, your host, and this is our Tornado GR special with Dennis Brooks. Dennis has over 4,000 hours on the Tornado GR1, and in this interview he talks about his time on the Triple TE, 9 Squadron, flying in Saudi Arabia, and of course sharing some brilliant stories. Remember, you can help the channel to continue putting out regular quality content by becoming a patron via patreon.com/aircrewinterview, where you receive 4 different tiers, each having its own benefits. So don't forget to click the subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos. Our sponsor, Club Coins UK, which we are very proud to be working with, as they are a veteran owned and run company where they produce stunning quality coins and patches that showcases the UK's military services. Their homage to the Tornado comes in the form of these quality coins that are available as singles or as sets, and they also produce this stunning Velcro patch that celebrates both the Tornado GR1 and GR4 in RAF service. You can check these products out and more at their website, which is clubcoinsuk.com. Thank you and enjoy. So Dennis, what kind of flying would you conduct?
Okay. Initially, the student pilots, obviously I'd be in the back seat for that. You take them through the conversion sorties, doing general handling, aerobatic circuits, all that sort of step, if I may. From initially, after basic training, I flew the NAT, advanced training.
Oh, yes.
And from there, rather than going straight onto an operational conversion unit, there was a scheme where some students went to Central Flying School, became instructors. So that was the course that I went, not through choice. It was not a bit of an imposition really, because you wanted to get onto the operational aircraft, but it did me no harm in the long run. So I ended up doing an instructional tour on the Jet Provost at Syerston, and it was from there that I went on to the Hunter to do the pre-Lightning course.
And was it as nice to fly as everyone says it was?
Yes, it was fantastic actually. Yeah, I really enjoyed the Hunter, and in fact I enjoyed the Gnat very much as well. I mean, that was a lovely little aircraft to fly. Yes, it was.
So do you think the Hunter prepared you well to go into the Lightning?
Yes, I think it was a good stepping stone. Obviously, going from the Jet Provost, then needed to speed up again before going to the Lightning. So yeah, the Hunter was very good from that point of view. Yeah.
So let's move on to the Lightning. So what were your initial thoughts of the mighty old girl?
Well, very imposing, impressive aircraft. I mean, just looking at the Lightning on the ground, you think, wow, you know, that's some beast. So yes, it's a bit awe-inspiring, really, and you know, certainly you think, well, that's good. If I can master this, then I'll be very, very happy.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, you probably have many, but can you share like maybe 1 or 2 memorable stories you've had, say, while flying up?
8 hours at a time doing this stuff, which was 2 or 3 refueling brackets, and also sort of times of the day or night. And again, if things happened, you know, if there were events that happened, we could be moved anywhere around the country at a moment's notice. So, you know, an awful lot of sort of contingent planning that went on, airborne as well as on the ground. We rotated through Iraq quite a lot, along with all the other squadrons doing that, and then obviously Afghanistan started. So we spent a fair amount of time in Kandahar when Tornado took over from Harrier, and again another very interesting experience. And really, it was those were the 2 main ones I did, and then had a very, very brief sort of period of time in sort of Op Shader. So the
Make sure you check out our online store where we work with our graphic designer to create stunning garment and product designs that feature a wide variety of aircraft types such as British fighters, World War II aircraft, American bombers, Russian fighters and much more. You can pick your favourite designs and personalise any items within our Redbubble store that range from clothing right the way through to stationery. All of our designs feature our logo so you can show your support for the channel while getting a quality product. You can head to our website aircrewinterview.tv and click store, or go to redbubble.com/people/AC interview. Thank you and enjoy. But then you moved on to 111 Squadron and you flew with the famous Black Arrows. We have to talk about that. Can you
and Condor drag shooters deployed correctly. Just Condor. Romeo Hotel Tango Tower. Go ahead, sir. Could you position on Mora, taxiway Delta on taxiway Alpha, south of Bravo in the meantime? Open up, sir. Thank you, and report ready. Okay, Astros continue to the end of the runway to vacate left on Alpha. Tower, Bosworth 1232, sir. Bosworth 1232, very nice. Have a good day. That's only for the looping exercise and 2 other vertical maneuvers. 84 Delta, say again.
Russia has lifted 295 strategic missile bombers into the air. $1 equals Russian rubles. The Russian Federation has taken action to suddenly deploy strategic 295 missile bombers at Engels Air Base, citing Russian media. Our field source said that a few hours after their deployment, the bombers took off. According to a source from the Engels base, the bombers performed training tasks and practiced airstrikes in various weather conditions, according to the information provided to us. At least two Tu-95s, accompanied by fighters, have performed takeoff and landing tasks, flights on a specific route, and coordinated tasks with ground air control at the base. After the bombers landed back at Engels Air Force Base, engineering teams performed standard service and prepared for multiple flights at regular intervals. Sources claim that during one of the many training flights of the two Tu-95s, more than 20 units of weapons equipment were engaged on the ground, as well as specialized vehicles with teams to maintain the technical condition of the airbase.
It took just 11 years to go from the first flight of the Lancaster bomber in 1941 to the first flight of the VX-770, the prototype Vulcan bomber in 1952. Yet the difference between them could hardly be greater. The Vulcan, along with the Victor and Valiant, were a new generation of planes known as the V-bombers, planes for a new era and a newly nuclear-armed Britain. In 1945, Britain emerged victorious from the Second World War, financially bankrupt but rich with engineering genius. The nation that had fought off the Luftwaffe, cracked the Enigma code and created radar was flush with a new generation of world-beating engineers and scientists who went to work for the great British aero corporations like Hawker Siddeley, Westland and Vickers Armstrong. War was over, but another race was beginning as the Soviets and the Americans jostled to find a new balance of power. The price of a seat at the big boys' table soon became clear, an independent nuclear deterrent. In 1947, just 5 years after the first Lancaster went into service, the British government issued a specification for a new bomber, one which could have a range of up to 3,700 kilometres, 2,300 miles, cruise at 930 kilometres an hour, 580 miles an hour, and at between 35 and 55,000 feet, and also carry a 5-ton nuclear bomb. Because they flew so high and fast, they will be out of the range of anti-air. These are some of the iconic pieces of launch footage from the space race and the shuttle program. Shots taken that would be impossible for any human to see close up and personal. and many of them were done long before we had miniature high-definition cameras and high-speed data links beaming the footage live from space. So how did NASA film these incredible shots of Apollo, the Space Shuttle and beyond? Now, as good as these look from an aesthetic point of view, they weren't done just to wow the public. They had a very important engineering role, and that was their primary purpose: to show the engineers and scientists just what was going on at critical stages of the launch, and in some cases like the Shuttle, Challenger and Columbia disasters, they were key in finding out exactly what happened. The story of how these techniques were developed goes back to the very first long-range ballistic missile, the V-2. The world's first CCTV system was developed by Walter Brausch in order to observe the rocket launches from a safe distance in a bunker. At the time, there was no way to record the video footage, so cameramen had to stand within the walled test area to film the launches, an extremely dangerous place to be so close to prototype rockets. Major General Dr. Walter Dornberger, the V-2 project leader, recalled how on one V-2 test, the rocket launched but then stalled and hovered about 4 meters above the launch table, aircraft, weapons and enemy fighters, so they had no active defences like the previous generation of bombers. By 1952, Britain had tested its first atomic bomb in Operation Hurricane, detonating a 25-kiloton device off of Western Australia. But just as the British were celebrating joining the nuclear club, 3 weeks later the Americans tested.
Curious Droid presents America's Forgotten Concords, the planes that never flew. When we think of supersonic passenger air travel, most people will think of Concorde, the joint British and French design plane which operated from 1976 until 2003, and up until this day has been the only long-term supersonic passenger jet service to operate anywhere in the world. What many people don't know is that in the 60s and 70s there were 3 other competing designs from the United States and Russia. The Russian Tupolev Tu-144 was the first commercial supersonic transport aircraft, or SST, which had its first flight 2 months before Concorde on the 31st of December 1969. However, after a crash at the Paris Air Show in 1973 and another in 1978, it was grounded after just 55 flights, although it has remained in service as a research platform well into the 1990s. The other 2 American designs are less well known about because despite a huge government backing and that supersonic transport was meant to be the next big thing after the moon landings, neither of the designs by Boeing and Lockheed made it into the air. The story starts in 1962 when the British and French governments announced that they would jointly build a new airliner that could travel at twice the speed of sound and which would be called Concorde. This was to be the most advanced civilian aircraft in the world, showing that European aircraft manufacturers could create the most leading-edge designs, something that the Americans believed they were the best at. When President John F. Kennedy found out that Pan Am.
We've looked at a couple of iconic planes on this channel recently that seem to be destined to keep flying long past their original design life, including the Boeing B-52 and the Lockheed C-5. But there is one more that you would have thought would have been made redundant long ago by advances in technology and an ever-changing political climate. And yet the Lockheed U-2 spy plane has outlived the SR-71 Blackbird, its direct successor, and survived the widespread uptake of spy satellites and even surveillance drones like the Global Hawk. So why is it still flying and still spying 65 years on and destined to continue for another 30 years more? Our sponsor for this video is Audible, which is something I found really quite interesting. Just in case you don't know, Audible is the leading supplier of spoken word entertainment, but it's not just about audiobooks of the latest bestsellers. They cover virtually anything that's been written. So there are memoirs,
On the morning of October 29th, I was woken up by a colleague who alerted me that a Lion aircraft crashed. He said it's the MAX, and I was surprised because it was a new aircraft. My company provided the air data for aircraft flying around the Jakarta area. So I went to the computer and looked at the data. It was immediately apparent that, okay, something was wrong. The plane went up to about 2,000 feet, just over a minute after takeoff. And the plane had a bit of a dive. And then the plane climbed to about 5,000 feet. But then at 5,000 feet, the plane was fluctuating up and down. And then the plane just started diving. It just didn't make sense. You don't see planes diving on departure. I was baffled. Why did it go down?
Lion Air Flight JT610 went missing from radar.
189 people were killed in the crash of Lion Air Flight 610.
The Boeing 737 MAX 8.
The plane was a new Boeing 737 MAX.
Anything that's been written. So there are memoirs, business, motivation.
Hey everybody, welcome back to 10% True. In this episode, I'm speaking to E.T. Johnson, Lucky Ekman, and T-Bear Larson about their involvement in the F4G Wild Weasel. We had originally intended to also talk about the AGM-88 Harm and to talk about the F-16CJ, which replaced the F4G, but we actually ran out of time. But fear not, because we've got a plan. We're going to come back and do 2 more interviews, one about the Harm, and hopefully if we can get an additional panelist on, the experience of the Harm and F4G pairing in Operation Desert Storm. And then we'll do our 3rd interview, which will be looking at the replacement of the F4G in the form of the F-16CJ and some of the experiences while weaseling during the Balkans conflicts. Before I let you get on with listening to these guys introduce themselves, can I just ask a simple thing? If you enjoy this video, please hit the thumbs up button and share it with somebody. If you enjoy it and you have a question or a comment, then please leave a comment here. Those are things that really help the YouTube algorithm figure out whether or not content is worth promoting to other people. And of course, if you're not subscribed already, please feel free to do that. If you hit the bell button, you'll get a notification of when the next 2 episodes are up. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the video. Hey everybody, welcome back to 10% True. I'm really pleased to be bringing you this, the first in a 4-part interview with BC Thomas, Lieutenant Colonel, US Air Force, retired, and high-time SR-71 Blackbird pilot. I don't think that BC does too many interviews, so I was really pleased that he agreed to talk to me. We've got about 6 hours of conversation. I've whittled that down to about 4.5, 5 hours of interview for you to listen to. And there are 4 parts. So this first part covers BC's early career going through pilot training and the flying he did prior to reaching the SR-71. Part 2 talks about the aircraft itself. It's more of a technical exploration of the aircraft with some reference to the peculiarities of how it operated, how the engines worked, how it managed to fly so high and so fast. Part 3 is a conversation around some of the operational missions that he flew and the culture in the SR-71 community. And then part 4 will be an... Hi everybody, welcome back to 10% True. I'm pleased to tell you I managed to coordinate diaries with Dave Southwood, so this is my interview with him.
Planes on the channel, but today I got a special invite to check these out. Okay, the airplane you see behind me is called the L-39, and it's a fighter jet. basically. And a lot of these aircraft are still active around the world. Anyway, stay tuned. We're going to check out all the nicks and knacks. I'm excited. So guys, I'm down in North Virginia, very close to a lot of military action here. And in front of me is an L-39. This is like a big brother. So there are different models and series to this aircraft. But this one is, to me, top notch. I actually just went for my first flight in this. I'm gonna talk to you about that later, but just check it out. Just take a minute. Look at the design of this thing, the nose. I've never seen anything like it. Okay, love the color scheme. They painted it white, black, red, and you see back there, it's got red tails. And I'll give you a little history of this airplane, but also the owner of this airplane. He actually owns about 3 of these, and he collects them. He basically buys them, fixes them up, and he uses it.
After 11-11, that includes Raptors, F-35s, F-16s, B-1s. There's going to be a whole list. And then gracefully, as all this is happening and positioning, in comes this beautiful Sophia. And you will get a chance, of course, to renamed. And of course, today we are about to start the show with North America's only real sonic booms. And throughout the day, so listen, folks, very shortly, you're about to hear one.
Around the same time, the Air Force released a birthday celebrating image that appeared to portray a wedge-shaped aircraft with no conventional tail portion, prompting some to speculate whether the artist's work had anything to do with the NGAD announcement that followed. Other official Air Force pictures, as well as renderings from notable aviation businesses like Lockheed Martin, have all showed similar wedge-shaped aircraft since then. Some have pointed to Northrop's YF-23 Black Widow II as the stealthy model for this tailless design, but Northrop isn't the only company that knows how to produce a stealth fighter without a tail. In truth, the X-44 Manta may represent an early version of what has, or will become at least, part of America's next prize fighter in the sky, based on some of these artists' representations and
intercontinental ballistic missiles and 170 military satellites, greater than any other country in the world. The USA has the largest number of stealth aircraft designed to be silent killers and untrackable by the radar defense systems of most countries in the world. Some of these stealth aircraft include air superiority fighters, such as the F-22 Raptor and the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter, heavy bombers, such as the B-2 Spirit. In fact, the United States pioneered this technology in the 1980s with the introduction of the F-117 Nighthawk stealth attack aircraft. Stealth aircraft are designed to avoid detection using a variety of technologies that reduce radar reflection from ground, sea, or air-based radar antennas, thereby reducing its radar cross-section, or RCS. This revolutionary technology allows a fifth-generation aircraft, such as the F-22 Raptor, with a max takeoff weight of 83,500 pounds, to have a radar cross-section of just 0.0001 meters squared, about the size of a bumblebee. What's more insane is that the massive B-2 bomber also has the same radar cross-section as the F-22 Raptor. Thus, it becomes extremely difficult to track stealth aircraft. Even if the enemy spots them on their radar scopes, it's a whole other story to successfully track them and register a missile kill. The whole idea behind this technology is to break the chain in which a conventional surface-to-air
The United States military is the most formidable in the world, and all four branches are regularly doing research and development into the next generation of military weaponry. Weapons of war have become exponentially more technologically advanced over the last century, and it can be mind-boggling to see just how far we've come since the days of biplanes and rifles. With any good fortune, the most powerful of these weapons will never have to be deployed during an actual conflict, but it can give us a sense of security to know that our armed forces have them at their disposal should the need arise. These are the 10 deadliest weapons that are currently part of the arsenal of the United States military. The Active Denial System, or ADS, is technically meant to be a non-lethal weapon, but as with most weapons of this type, it can absolutely be quite deadly if not used properly. The ADS doesn't fire any projectiles. It's a directed energy weapon, which might sound like something out of science fiction, but the vehicle-mounted ADS has been in use for a decade, and it's easy to see why it's earned the sinister nicknames Heat Ray or Pain Ray. It works somewhat similarly to a microwave oven, which should tell you all you need to know about this weapon's potential for causing serious damage. The ADS emits a person-sized beam of millimeter waves, a type.
Hello everyone. In today's video, we will show you the top 10 most powerful countries in terms of military in the world. But before we begin, it should be noted that total aircraft strength mentioned in the video includes aircraft from Air Force, Navy, and Army. Armored fighting vehicles counts only includes infantry fighting vehicles and armor personnel carriers. Let's get started. At number 10, with over 171,000 active military personnel, is Italy. Currently, Italy spends around $28 billion to fund its armed forces. Now, coming to the land equipment of Italian armed forces, the Italian armed forces has 200 Ariete main battle tanks, over 2,600 armored fighting vehicles, 54 self-propelled artillery, and 21 multi-launched rocket systems in its inventory. Now, coming to the air power of Italian armed forces, the Italian armed forces have more than 830 aircraft, which include 110 plus fighter aircraft, 400 plus helicopters.
Emits a person-sized beam of millimeter waves, a type of electromagnetic radiation. The beam is invisible, but if you're in its path,
air-to-air missile defense system works. It's the same reason countries like China and Russia are also hard at developing their own stealth fighter, the Chengdu J-20 and the Sukhoi Su-57, respectively. These aircraft will allow the US Air Force to assert its air superiority over any battlefield of the future, and we all know that control of these skies is the biggest decider in any war. The next reason why any country going to war with the US military should think twice